The Mets don't often make the playoffs, but when they do, it's magical. And Monday afternoon marked one of the greatest games in the history of the New York Mets franchise. One of the great games you will see in the history of the sport. And it happened to clinch a playoff spot for the Mets. Francisco Lindor's heroics did it again. After Edwin Diaz blew it in the eighth, Lindor won it in the ninth, and Diaz sought redemption and got it in the bottom of the frame, sending the Mets to Milwaukee for game one of the wild card round on Tuesday. Amazing but true is over, but Mets magic is in the air. And the magic rides into October for postseason baseball. And coming up next on a live episode of the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic, I'll give you my thoughts on this special season. And we also hear from you, the New York Mets fan base, about one of the most memorable seasons of our lifetime. But it ain't done yet. Let's cry, let's smile, let's cheer, and let's get the Mets into the playoffs. And we'll do it next on the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic Playoff Clincher Edition.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Mets Magic with Jake Brown.
And it's in there, strike three called. The Mets win the pennant. The New York Mets have won the National League pennant. Put it in the books. The New York Mets, for the first time in 15 years, are champions of the National League.
The sickest New York Mets podcast. It's gonna be sick.
The Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio. If you're watching on YouTube right now or you're watching back, smash that thumbs up. Give us a like. Share it with all your Mets fan friends and comment below what you feel about the New York Mets who are going to the playoffs. They're going to Milwaukee. They win game one. They lose game two. I'll tell you why I'm fine with them losing game two in a second. But we, in a bit, are going to hear from you. But first, let me say this. I'm 33 years old. The Mets do not make the playoffs often. 1969, 1973, 1986, 1988, 1999, 2000, 2006, and then a long break after that. 2015, 2016, 2022, and now the 11th time. In the 63-year franchise, the Mets make the playoffs. That's once every 6 years about. In my lifetime, 99, 2000, 2006, 2015, 2016, 2022. This is the 7th appearance. One of those only lasted a game in 2016 when they lost that one-game playoff. From 8 years old, the first year I was a fan, to now at 33. It does not happen often. And this one was extra special for me. Leaving New York at the end of August, being laid off, moving from New York, I kind of had a feeling the Mets were going to do something special. I said, I'm leaving, which means the Mets probably going to end up winning the World Series the second I leave my state. And that was one of the worst weeks of my life, leaving New York, losing my job, same week. I cried every night. I cried a lot that week. I cried when I left Citi Field on August 21st when the Mets had 2 walk-offs against the Orioles. The Wednesday, Jesse Winker, first Citi Field homer, is a walk-off. Cried leaving the stadium, going down the escalator, going to the train, took a final look behind me, and I cried. And today, I cried again. Those were tears of sadness. Those were tears of when will I be back? Those were tears of how am I leaving this glorious place? How am I leaving the best borough on the planet in Queens? How am I leaving Citi Field? How am I leaving New York without being sure when I'll be back? To end the month of September, These are tears of joy. These are tears of a team that we have put our hands around and hugged and kissed and grimaced and OMG'd and glizzied and Seymour Wienered and rally pimped. This has been cinema. And the regular season ended with cinema on Monday afternoon in Atlanta. 3-0. Coming down to the final game. Schwellenbach did it again. He's out. The bullpen's in. Magic. Hit. Iglesias ties it. Candelita. Oh my God. He does it again. Nimmo 2-run homer. It's a 6-run eighth. Edwin Diaz blows it. Bottom of the eighth. Another big game. Diaz blows. Here we go. It's going to come down to the second game. Heart palpitations. Starling Marte base hit. Who's coming up? The captain. The MVP. The face of the New York Mets. And he knocks one out of here. Francisco Lindor, 2-run homer, does it again. He did it in Toronto. He does it again here. Clutch hit after clutch hit. Figuratively, literally putting the team on his back. And he did it again. Edwin Diaz said, put me back in. I got this ish. And he did. And I'm sure every Met fan like me, in the back of their minds, are thinking, of course, it's Travis d'Arnaud. Here comes the 2-run walk-off. But he got the ground out to none other than Francisco Lindor. How apropos. Lindor wins into the top of the ninth. He gets the final play in the bottom of the ninth. And he pops champagne after game 2, not game 1. Because they had only a 30-minute break. They got to do it after a loss. How often do you get to do that? In a magical season. This team has brought us all in together. No one saw this coming. On Memorial Day and the days following, this team was in the gutter. This team was dead in the water. This team was the worst effing team in MLB. Even if he didn't say it. We were all thinking it. We were thinking about the ghost town in Queens. We know they filmed Sharknado in Queens. Sharknado 6. We had a sixth sense that there would be a horror movie in Queens. And it wasn't going to be in October in the month of Halloween. It was going to be in the summer months, where the only time it wasn't a ghost town at Citi Field would be for giveaway days. But then Grimace came along. And then Candelita came along. And then the number one song in the Latin charts, OMG, came along. And then Francisco Lindor's heroics continued. The Mets starting pitching dominated. The Mets added piece by little piece at the trade deadline by the mastermind, David Stearns. And they needed every one of those pieces. They needed Ryan Stanek. They needed Phil Maton. They needed Jesse Winker. Hell, they needed Huascar Brazopan. And every inch, every piece, to the point of Luis Angel Acuna in the last few weeks. 1 through 40. And David Stearns addressed it. Every issue this roster had, he addressed it. Bullpen, rotation, starters, depth, minor league depth guys, he addressed it. And one of the most important pieces of this team was one of those depth guys in Jose Iglesias. It wasn't Pete Alonso. It was Jose Iglesias, and it was the captain, Francisco Lindor. And how could you not love this team? He picked the right manager that we all had no idea who he was or what he would be, in Carlos Mendoza, who deserves manager of the year. If Murphy wins it, fine. But this is Mendoza's victory for me. A team he brought back from the dead to life. A team that had me crying tears of sadness to tears of joy 1 month later. When I left New York a month ago, I wasn't sure I'd be back at Citi Field for October. And I sit here today and I'm still not sure that I'll be back for Citi Field in October. But in the words of the great Jim Carrey in one of the great movies, Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. And there's a chance that the Mets return to our favorite ballpark in a week. It'll take wins, 2 wins over Milwaukee. But if they can do it, they go on to the NLDS, and then there'll be 2 road games, and then game 3 potentially at Citi Field. We might be back in that ballpark for more of that Mets magic. And boy, do I hope so. But if not, you are playing with house money. And you were looking at a Mets team that a lot of us are saying, oh, we're happy we're here, but we're not expecting much. If they lose the wild card round, you know what? I'm fine. But they had to get there. After all these stories, after the OMGs, the purple seat, the grimace, they had to get to the playoffs. And that road has been hopped over. They're there, and they did it. And I'm so proud of Lindor, Mendoza, this entire Mets team, front office, the people behind the scenes. I know a lot of people in this organization, and I'm so happy for every single one of them. And I'm so happy for every single one of us who fought through those dark days of May and even the dark days of the last week where everyone over the weekend, when the Mets lost again Saturday, said they're done. But I always kept the faith because this team was different, resilient, magical, never say die mantra. There's a reason they were one of the top teams in baseball in comeback victories because they always found a way. And on Monday afternoon, they found a way for win number 89 to propel themselves as the final seed, just how it should be, the last man standing. It's these underdog New York Mets. Mets Brewers, 5:30 tomorrow night in Milwaukee. Let's go Mets. We'll see you there. I'm Jake Brown. This is the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Smash that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're live on YouTube. Share it with your friends. I wanted to talk to a few Mets fans, friends of mine, and invite people in to, echo what I was kind of saying about how special this team was, how fun they were. Let's start with a guy who's on the road to Milwaukee right now. I'll give them a few minutes each, and then we'll move on. But I wanted them to be a part of this celebration with me because I think all of us were in a similar boat where we were, in tears. He was at the game, and he was on a show a few weeks ago. Let's start with J Mac Customs. Hey,
J Mac Customs, let's go.
Hey, tell us about the atmosphere today and your thoughts. Obviously, it's changed your life with OMG and the sign and everything, but your thoughts just overall on how magical this season has been.
Oh man, without question. Anytime you think about like amazing possibilities of something that can happen, it always ends up with playoffs in mind. But let's face it, we were a team that couldn't get out of our own way for the first 2 months of the season. We were practically dead and buried on May 28th, especially with the low water mark of the season being 11 games below 500, and then some decisions were made, cutting bait with some loose ends that we needed to shore up, and obviously making the decision to bring up Jose Iglesias, and then they started getting on a run, stitching together some wins, going to London, winning in an improbable fashion, and on that Sunday, June 9th, and then the grimace came and the 7-game winning streak that preceded it, and then beating the Yankees in a 2-game set, and then Sunday Night Baseball. The Alvarez interview about oh my God, and later that week having the oh my God performance on fireworks night where the sign was introduced. That to me was like a very pivotal point in the season, because a week later the sign broke, went to Pittsburgh, dropped off a new one, and I'm talking to Steve, and one of the things that burnt in the conversation in my mind about this team and what this team could do is, we haven't seen it yet. There was still a lot of baseball to be played. There were still trade line decisions to be made. I had asked him, do you think we're going to add? He said, well, we just added Phil Minton, he's gonna show up big for us, and he has. Knew his personnel, but other ancillary decisions that came aboard to shore up the bullpen, and some decisions to move some players down and make some decisions on other players instead. I mean, look at the choice to make Mark Vientos our third baseman and what he's done for us this season. There's just been so many decisions that have kind of led to this kind of magical season. The walk-offs were great. The elongated winning streak that we had in September, where we won like 18 out of 22 games, put us in this position that we're in this weekend. And one thing that I really stand and think about is every game that you'd see on Mets Twitter where people say that this is the worst game of the season. I can't believe this team. They're going to break our hearts again. And I thought it would come down to 162. It would come down to maybe these last two games, this last series. I thought the last series, the actual 3 games with Atlanta, without barring a rainout, would be something that would be something to look forward to. But as our luck would have it, rain would get in the way, and we would be forced to play on the final game of September, the final day of September, the day before making it to the wild card. Isn't that the most Mets stuff possible?
And in the fashion they did it, I mean, the way the twist and turn, it would only go out that way in the most wild fashion, and blown save, shutout, comeback. That's how it was written, J-Mac.
Yeah, and any other year, we wouldn't have won this game. Edwin Diaz would have not come back in. But on July 7th in Pittsburgh, he blew the lead, came back and won the game. He's done this a couple of times throughout the course of the season, where he's rebounded and wanted to get back on the hill. And Mendy stuck with him. Big boy pants were on. And the ground out goes to our shortstop. And what better player than it to be Travis d'Arnaud? But just going back to that conversation with Steve, he said, wouldn't it be something if this thing that's happening with this team, and OMG, this team makes its way to the playoffs and gets into the playoffs? And to be there to witness it, listen, I know that we're of different religious beliefs. I grew up Catholic, and today was the feast of St. Jerome. And
I don't even know what that means, but I like it. I like a feast. So.
He was a saint that delivered the teachings of the Bible and spirituality to people who needed to hear it. And I'm not saying that I'm St. Jerome, but I got this message from 2 different people today. Dude, you're going to be down in Atlanta on the Feast of St. Jerome. And I don't think I've ever acknowledged it or read up on it to even know that today was the day. And how crazy is it? And OMG is about, belief in yourself, belief in something bigger than you, and casting away, all of the doubt, all the negativity and all that stuff. That's what this year has been about, because we played in Milwaukee and we hadn't won against them all season. We were 13 games, we were 12-1, and we had a 7-game losing streak. They wanted to make it 8. We cast away that dragon, and then we go to Atlanta, the House of Horrors, and it's not even October yet, and we got over it and won that game in such amazing fashion. Shout out to Brandon Nimmo too for hitting a bomb and showing up like a co-captain that he was when he was just really hot. And I remember the week leading up to the final homestand, and Brandon Nimmo imploring fans to come out and pack the house, and he hit some really amazing home runs and just was a big part of the offense during that stretch. So shout out to him too, but got to give it up to Francisco Lindor. I mean, what a treasure, what a guy, Jose Iglesias, what a find. Number 11 is on his back, right? 11 postseason clinches for us. So there's a lot of things with numbers and signs, and I try to find those kind of things, and it's a little superstitious. It might be a little nerdy. It might be a little off the wall, but we're off the wall as fans, and guys here for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of voodoo stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
Well put, J-Mac, and safe travels to you to Milwaukee. J. McCustoms, go get the OMG sign for the playoffs. if this goes to game 3, I think I'm going to come back to New York for some kind of watch party Thursday because I need to be around fellow Met fans for this ride, and hopefully it goes beyond this. We keep talking about making the playoff. Why not? Like you said, wash all the doubt away. The song represents this season. J Mac, thanks for hopping on. Safe travels, whoever's driving, and
Thanks
always
for
a
having me
pleasure.
on, Jake.
Yes, sir.
Safe.
J Mac,
Love you, man.
great. He clearly lost his voice there from the action today, and I can't blame him. Great fan and a big part of the movement. Let's move on to the next fan. My buddy Afi in Astoria. Me and Afi have gone to games together. Longtime friend of mine. And Afi, you were at the T Squared watch party, I believe. Man, I wish I was there. It looked like it was buzzing there. Bartolo Colon, Matt Harvey. Take us through the day for you, and just for you, your angle of, you're a couple years older than me, but similar age in your 30s. The season that has just captured our hearts of the 2024 Mets.
Dude, T Squared today was absolutely unreal. I think even with Mr. and Mrs. Matt and Bartolo Colon and Matt Harvey, even with them in the house, the energy, the loud factor, a lot of people taking extended lunch breaks from work today. I may have been one of them.
It's allowed. Mr. Met wrote a permission slip for you guys.
Yeah, it was allowed today. I mean, I think all of New York was able to take extended breaks today. Just this ride, this season of 2024, and I got to see the series. I got to see the whole Yankees series sweep. I was in Pittsburgh this year. I was in San Diego this year for the Mets. Top to bottom this year to start. What do we start? 0-5. We were 11 games under, and to end is 16 games over. So essentially, it's a 27 game swing from where we started to where we ended. And the best record in June, the best record in July. We got a little lackluster towards the end, but this team, the magic, just the aura. I was around for 15. I was around. So all the playoff years you mentioned earlier, I got to see as well. 99, 98, whatever. I wasn't there in 06. I was there for 15. I was there for 16. I went 2022. Something about this year, I don't know. It's the Lindor, Jose Iglesias, the most underrated free agent pickup you could ever think of this offseason. Who would have thought?
Well, 16 was a one-game playoff, so you almost forget about them. 15, I think that was a fun team because from what they went from the trade deadline to the end. But this team, just from May to where they are now, and just the unlikely here and where they were, I think 15, you expected them to be in the race. They just failed for the first couple months. This team was not expected to be here, and they did it.
I have a screenshot somewhere. I have to find it, and I'll send it to you. You know my friend Michael. I said to him at some point back in maybe February or March, the Mets would somehow sneak into the 7th spot and make the last wild card position into the playoffs.
6th spot. Yeah.
Well, now they're in they got the 6th spot, but I had said to him 7. I got to find a screenshot and I'll post it for the world to see. I just got to find it. But dude, this year, man, and then the energy today, our friend Anthony Furio, who's always bringing that energy, always bringing the magic. We were down 3-0. We're all looking a little worrisome. He's, rocking on with the chants, the 2 strikes, the 7-line chant, the for the strikeouts. And, Schwarber gets taken out, hit, 1 run, 2 run. Iglesias, oh my God, cue the music. I looked at our one friend, Ben. I was like, imagine Nimmo just cranks one right now. What, 2 pitches later? Gone. Place erupted. I'm pretty sure someone's drink landed on me. I don't know. Something did. And then the Lindor home run. We're all looking. Is like, is it going to make it? Is it going to clear?
Well, because Gary didn't even know. Gary was like, it's a fly ball.
Even know. He's looking out there like, I don't know if it's going to go over. The ball carried like no other. If there was wind in Atlanta, thank you, Mother Nature. We'll take it. And just overall, like I still have some voice left over. I'm shy. I ran back to my office to get my stuff and get my work done afterwards. But it was just incredible. And if you can make it back, if it gets to a game 3 or whatever it is, and you can make it back, Jake, you got to come back. We all miss you out here. And
yeah, man,
come back soon.
I got it.
Even if it's not play. I mean, I'm home this week. I'm on the road for the next 2 weeks. So wherever I go, I'm gonna have to watch Mets on the road. So I won't be with Met fans. I'll be you in the next 2 weeks if the Mets get that further.
It's brutal watching from afar, but it was a nice moment. I did have my mom here, and every time they were down, she does a Jewish prayer called the Via Hafta, and she would, and I think it is the Jewish New Year today or tonight. She made brisket with challah bread. She did the
It's Rosh
Via
Hashanah
Hafta.
weekend approaching.
Yeah, it's Rosh Hashanah this week, so happy Jew year. But she did the Via Hafta, and she claims it worked. I said, Mom, it's because they took Schwellenbach out. She doesn't know what that means, but once Schwellenbach came out, they turned it around. But maybe the Via Hafta was the start because they did it. When she said it, they did have a few hits. It was the inning Bader couldn't get the runs in. They did start hitting the ball. So I'll credit the Via Hafta. I'll credit Mama Brown. And yes, if it goes to Game 3, we'll be back. They're going to Atlanta for my niece's first birthday. So I was going to be here myself. So I feel like I have to take a bus or get up there on Thursday. Afi, I will see you there. And let's go on a deeper run. Playoffs is fun, but we've been to the wild card round the last 2 times and didn't get out of the wild card round.
I was gonna shave tonight, but I don't know. I might have to keep the superstition up. I don't know. I did it in 2015.
Keep it up. I mean, it's October. I mean, you saw what I looked like with that one last week, so it's already grown back. I had the Hitler mustache. Wouldn't be very Russian.
2015, I let it ride out all the way past Halloween into the end of the World Series. I may have to do the same again. I don't know. Let's see.
Either way, it's house money. Like if they do lose, Milwaukee has beaten them. I haven't mentioned that. Like I wanted Milwaukee, but Milwaukee has tortured them outside of Sunday in a game for them that didn't. I mean, the whole weekend didn't mean anything for them. Sunday really didn't mean nothing. I just fear San Diego with what they did at the deadline, with that place, with what they did to us in 2022, with their playoff experience, with their really good bullpen. I'd rather face Milwaukee starting rotation in big games and hope that we could end that drought, which they started on Sunday. Maybe that carries them over. I don't know. Maybe I'll look back and Milwaukee sweeps us and say, damn, what if we face San Diego? But I think the Mets did the right thing in game 2. They threw Lucchesi and Brazoban out there. They didn't waste any big arms. They rested Lindor. They rested Alvarez. They got their guys fresh, and then they celebrated. Afi, we'll see you in the playoffs. Thanks for coming on.
Take care, brother.
That is Afi, diehard Mets fan in Astoria, Queens. Let's go to another Mets fan, a mutual friend of ours, and the owner of American Whiskey, New York City. If you ever go to a Rangers, Knicks game, stop by American Whiskey. This is a shameless plug. And the braised short rib, I did a food review on it, and food was squirting out of my mouth, and it was delicious. Hoosh, Kevin, Hoosh, Shanky. I've never really said your name right. You look like you're being held hostage in your car right now. Is everything okay? Park twice if you're in Milwaukee.
I have a great story. I'm not being held hostage. I am being held hostage, but it's by my family, and that's the best people to hold you hostage. But thank you for having me on. Thank you for the shout out. We also have a location in Newark, New Jersey, where
that's why you have the Devil shirt on right now.
Well, I was working it tonight, and we had a lot of Ranger fans in there. Shout out the Ranger fans. Shout out the Devil fans. Shout out all the Mets fans, the best fans. But yeah, it's actually I have an interesting story about today's game, but in talking about the season and talking about you, and I want to give you your flowers because you were Mr. Met all year. You were the one that you inspired all of us with just the sheer fortitude to make all these games and go on this emotional roller coaster. Thank you for that. And, you always have a couch. You always have a bed. You could stay at American Whiskey if you want to when you come back to watch the games. It's your home. But I wanted to kind of mention a couple things just listening to everyone talk. And, shout out Afi, shout out J Mac Customs. I mean, that guy, what an amazing dude and story. Him and Jose Iglesias are tied together forever. And that's just awesome. It's so cool that, the one thing we as Mets fans, we share cathartic experiences, right? It's the best of the best, but we have to go through the worst of the worst. They're Greek tragedies, the way the Mets lose. They never lose easily. But the fact that, that everybody could have this sort of moment together, and you being the person who kind of, for me, I've been a Mets fan for I'm 45. For 35 of those years, I was a Mets fan. Actually, more. 84, 85 was when I became a Mets fan. But the Mets have a brand, okay? And that brand is the highest of highs and lowest of lows. And today, this game, what encapsulated all of that. And while I'm not going to go down the crazy voodoo route, I've made peace. I've made peace with a lot of my superstitions as a Mets fan. I've given up on them. I gave up on them 4 times today already. Um, I've really tried to get to a Zen place with them, but in the interest of just kind of all enjoying and celebrating this great day. This was a sad year for the Mets. The Mets lost a lot of very important people to the organization. A couple people I was lucky enough to call acquaintances, and one really good friend. I want to shout him out. Rest in peace, Mark Levine, the head photographer for the Mets. People in the 80s, he had the Levine on the back of his jacket. He had a satin Mets jacket that today Kith would put out, and it would be a sick throwback. The back of his said Levine, and everyone kind of remembered that. And he was such a good friend to me all my years of coming to Shea and then Citi Field, and Ed Kranepool and Bud Harrelson, John Stearns. That they lost a lot of people this year, and very important people to the franchise. So I found it very fitting that they were on brand the way they won today. Right? It wouldn't happen any other way. I'm probably in 5 Mets group chats, and all of them. It was just the sky is falling to euphoria. So that real quick story. We couldn't get childcare today, and I had to work in Newark. So I had to drive my 2 kids, Cyrus and Darius, 6 and 4 years old, from Queens to New Jersey, where I am now. And then I had to go to work. Now I'm back here to pick them up. I'm about to go in and get them when I'm done here. But one of the coolest things, I've been taking them both to Mets games since they were little. We, 7-line seats, and then throughout the stadium. This year I've taken them both to all the games I've been to, except for the one I saw you at, Jake. Mm-hmm. My son Cyrus, Darius fell asleep, but they got to listen to a game on the radio for the first time. And Howie Rose was absolutely brilliant today. Absolutely. He painted a masterpiece. And to kind of watch the road and watch my 6-year-old and us, kind of like lamenting and then high-fiving in his car seat behind me, and him being able to follow the picture how he painted. And, it made me think of like my best friends in the world, listening to Mets games in NYU at the dorms, watching Mets games with my dad. It connected all the dots. And I think, hey, let's go win it all, right? We always want to win it all. Let's avenge the Padres, avenge the Braves, avenge the Phillies, and get the Yankees at the end and avenge them. But you know what? If we lose the next series, I think it was very important to make the playoffs this year. I think that was huge. I actually felt a huge relief when we won that game. And usually it's always, like think of 2022, 16, 15. It's like, all right, what's next? I could care less. I honestly, I was just thrilled. And like, the Yankee fans, they trash us. The Phillies fans trash us. The Braves fans trash us. We had a nice moment today, and we could all relate. It's like a secret handshake. And we all got to experience that today. And that was awesome.
Yeah, you made a great point with honoring the Mets that we lost. We just lost lifetime Met Ed Kranepool. Ed Kranepool, when you think of the Mets, you think of David Wright, Ed Kranepool. Those are the names that come to mind. Mike Piazza, Tom Seaver. But Ed Kranepool never left. Stearns. Levine, who I met, great photographer. Guy's been here forever. He shot everything from bar mitzvahs to games and everything in between. Stearns. We lost some unbelievable figures in this franchise who were on the field or off the field, photo booth, wherever they were. And
I left out Willie Mays,
Yeah. Was that this year?
That was it. Well, yeah, who knows? I can't even remember. It's been a long day, buddy.
Yeah. No, what? You're right. Yeah. June. Yeah. Willie Mays, another one. We've lost some. Today we lost Pete Rose and Dikembe Mutombo. This is why they always say hug your loved ones. You never know how much longer you got. When I saw you, it was the day I had the sign. It was the day, I guess, Brandon Nimmo was in the suite with us, or his family, excuse me. He was on the field. He wasn't in the suite. His parents were there wanting to take a picture with the sign. And that sign and Jay McCustoms and the words behind the lyrics of that song have got us here and into the postseason.
And Jake, he's the best guy. I got to meet him his rookie year. I was lucky enough I'm lucky enough to call Curtis Granderson a friend. Curtis Granderson sent Brandon Nimmo in. And if you, you know, look, these guys, a lot of times they're very different than their outward personality or their interview personality. This guy is exactly what you see on TV and would give the shirt off to any Met fan. I mean, he's the salt of the earth. And he was talking in his interview on the radio. He was talking about, he's like, I'm getting emotional. I'm getting emotional for myself, but I'm getting emotional for Francisco Lindor with everything he dealt with this year, all the doubt in the last 3-4 years. And to have that moment today. And I mean, I think we can all agree he's had a couple of, hey, he's a Met moments, but I think he's good now. I think the booing in April and May is done. I think he's good.
Lindor and Nimmo are the real captains and the future. I mean, Pete Alonso's going to be gone. It's Lindor and Nimmo's team, and those are the two guys who stepped up they grabbed their balls and they said it's showtime. And Nimmo today, Lindor today, them over and over again this month have come up with those big hits. And if one of those games goes awry, we're not sitting here tonight. We're talking about one freaking game. The Mets tied the Diamondbacks. If Diaz doesn't bounce back that game in Arizona the next day, we're not sitting here celebrating. We are mourning. And instead, we're celebrating. Took one moment, and the Mets came through in every moment that they needed.
There's 10 easy games they could have won to make it a lot easier on us.
Yeah, well, of course. But I think in the most Mets way, they made it dramatic. And they made it magical. Hoosh, go take care of your children. They're waiting for you inside.
Love you, Jake.
Great story. Love you too. I'll see you soon. I'll be back, I think, this weekend. So I hope to see you.
Be good, brother. You know where to find me.
Be good. That is Hoosh, American Whiskey, Newark, New York City, around the corner from the Garden. Go check out American Whiskey. And great show. I mean, great perspective from a fan, from a guy who's been 2 fans, 3 fans, who have been involved in all different ways. Mama Brown in the background. Say hello, Mom, wave to the camera. You want to wave? Say the Via Hafta. There's Mama Brown. Mom, do you want to say anything about the victory today? Your first appearance on Mets Magic. Your thoughts?
It was fantastic. I said all kinds of prayers. I was cheering the team on, bringing good luck to Jake.
Can you say the first few lines of Via Hafta?
Via Hafta, hey, Adonai, and we had a celebratory brisket to celebrate the Mets tonight. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and happy playoffs for the Mets. The first appearance on Mets Magic from Mama Brown. It begins Tuesday in Milwaukee, 5:30. The Brewers have beaten the Mets 5 out of 6 times. The Mets' only win against the Brewers this season came on Sunday in a 5-0 win. Tuesday at 5:32, Wednesday at 7:38, and if necessary, Thursday at 8:38. And then if you win 2, you move on. And like I said, if they don't move on, so be it. They did what they had to do, and that's get into October. From here, we'll see what kind of magic the Mets have. But boy, has this team been a fun story. They've been must-see TV. The storylines are endless. I can't wait to see who and what platform it's on. The documentary of the 2024 Mets and all the rain delays this will lead the category of every rain delay should be a replay of the game we saw this afternoon. One of the great games in the history really of baseball in the regular season. I mean, how often, if ever, do you have a winning game on Monday, the day after the season's over, when everyone else is finished? The fact that doesn't happen and it was for the playoffs means everything. And SNY an Insta-Met classic, and I can't wait for it. Let's bring in one more person, and then we'll close up shop here. One who in the midst of this season brought a child along. And how often... this is a good capper in a feeling of new life. Is my friend Lakia. Lakia, join us now, who has a baby amidst the season. I guess the baby is asleep right now, but talk about your experience becoming a mother amidst trying to catch the Met game while maybe attending to a child. I'm sure it's been stressful and a lot going on, but you got your own little perspective of this season.
Well, the baby is not asleep. She is wide awake right now. As she refused to nap during the first game. So, so I guess that's kind of like a sign.
So she'll be watching it on SNY when she is able to see and know who Gary, Keith, and Ron are.
Oh, she knows.
Yeah.
Oh, she knows. She's locked in. And it's just funny, like you mentioned that, because I had the baby in May during one of the roughest months of the season. And I just remember, I think I might have just gotten home from the hospital or something. Anyway, when they had that collapse and Gary Cohen, was talking about, 0-5 to start the season and all that stuff. And so it's been a wild summer to have a baby and to be able to still cheer on the team. I took her to her first game last week. So I feel like she's already lived like 5 lifetimes as a Met fan. And she's only 4 months old.
Yeah, and what date was her birthday in May?
May 10th.
Let's go back to May 10th and see what the Mets did and see where the Mets lost that day to the Atlanta Braves.
Wow.
It is the coming of life story.
Wow.
Baby born on a loss today, a win. A win for America. A win for the Mets fans. And she will see this game on a rain delay in 2034 and watch it back and say, and you could say, we watched this game together. You didn't know what was happening, but now you could see why I was screaming at the TV that day.
And I definitely was screaming at the TV, and she kept looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? But
now she knows you were screaming.
Completely understand what it's like to be a Met fan and just going through all the emotions.
Did you have extra emotions today? Like thinking about that, like first year child, like, I mean, especially if they win the World Series. I mean, playoffs is one thing, but the fact that they got in the year you became a mother, take us through. There's got to be some emotions there.
There definitely is. It's funny because I remember when I announced that I was pregnant, Curtis Granderson texts me, not to name drop.
Who's just mentioned he's friends with Granderson, so we had 2 Granny mentions here.
Oh, there you go. He texted me to congratulate me on the pregnancy, and he said maybe the baby will be the Mets' good luck charm this season. So far it's looking like it'll be good. And I'm just sitting here watching the game with her, and I was thinking about my mom telling me about when the Mets won in '86. I was 2. So I was standing in front of the TV cheering along and stuff like that. And so, it'd be nice, to have her experience a deep postseason run. So we'll see. You're already off to a good start, right?
In her first year of life to win a World Series. I've been alive 33 and I have none. At least you have one, Lakia. You might have been younger than she is now, but you have one. I have 0. So she's going to be ahead of all of us if she gets one before she could even say mama.
I know. She could be living the life. She really might be the good luck charm. I pray. But it'll be fun watching the games with her. Like I said, she be locked in. So I have all of her Mets outfits ready for every game. game.
I got one for you. I think was 6 to 9 months. I think we're reaching that point, and 6 months would be October.
Yes,
the Mets are playing in October. It's like I timed it. I didn't even think about that voodoo kind of stuff. That's the 6-month mark would be the Mets playoff run.
There'll be a lot of late nights for her, and seeing as how she doesn't really like to nap anyway, I think she'll be good. Right? Oh.
I think that's good. You're not in San Diego then, as she shut the camera off. She's like, I've had enough TV time.
She shut the camera off.
Well, I know you got to feed the baby and do your thing. I appreciate you popping on, giving some perspective, and let's win for her. Let's do this thing. And hopefully go on a run. Lakia, I'll see you soon.
All right, bye.
That is Lakia. We had a mother, my mother, Afi, Kevin, Hoosh, who's tending to his kids, J-Mac. I think that's a good way to close up shop on the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Mets Brewers. My prediction, Mets. Take 2 out of 3 and go to the NLDS. I think they use what happened today, that game, the celebration. I think this band of brothers ends the misery in Milwaukee, and I think they move on. And it's time. The Mets magic continues into October. The Mets take 2 out of 3. It'll be Severino, Manaea, Quintana, it looks like, is how they'll probably align it, which worked out well for the Mets. That's why game 1 was so massive. They were able to save Severino. Manaea will be a normal rest. Quintana will be a normal rest. And if you move on, Peterson will then pitch on normal rest, and then Manaea. So, like, your rotation lines up perfectly here, where guys will be in normal rest, and then you still have the potential of Kodai Senga if he's ready, which we haven't heard much, so I doubt he is. But a lot of chances for more magic if these pitchers pitch like they have the last couple of months. And the bats come alive. You know, they waited a while today, but they eventually came alive. The bats got to come to life. Friday and Saturday in Milwaukee, they were dead. But it's time to bring it back to life. Great points from everyone. Win for the players that we lost, the people that we lost. Win for the babies. Win for us. Win for the fans. This has got to be that special season. There's not many of them, so hold it tight. And if they lose, you know what? They gave us a hell of a run. They overachieved. And now you think about how ahead of the ball game they are. They got prospects. Vientos showed up. Now you get rid of Alonso. You got $150 million on the cap to spend money. Try and get a Soto. Try and fill the holes. Bring back Manaea. Bring back Iglesias. You don't even need to think about those, but you have positive thoughts about the future. You have your GM. You have your head of the top in Cohen. You got Stearns right there. You got the right manager in Mendoza. Things are all falling into place. They're ahead of the program. But let's keep riding this wave. Let's keep riding this OMG wave. Let's get this OMG remix come out this week. How much of a hype would that be if we start playing OMG again with Pitbull or whoever's on the remix? I think it's going to be Pitbull, and that'll be our playoff anthem. It starts tomorrow in Milwaukee. Smash that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Share this with all your Mets fan friends. Let them know to subscribe to Mets Magic. We'll have you covered through the playoffs. Follow me at Jake Brown Radio, wherever your social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to my YouTube. Here's YouTube, youtube.com/@the-sick-podcast, Mets Magic, or wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. Write a nice review. I can't believe it. The first year of Mets Magic, playoff baseball. Never would have thought this on Memorial Day. But October baseball begins Tuesday in Milwaukee. We'll be back after this series is over, whether it's moving on to preview the NLDS or kissing goodnight to one of our favorite Mets seasons of our lifetimes. I'm hoping it's moving on to the NLDS, but we'll find out. Mets Brewers Tuesday night. Beat the Brewers, move on. Thanks to Afi, thanks to Hoosh, thanks to Lakia, thanks to Jay McCustoms, thanks to Shane for producing the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Jake Brown. We'll catch you after the wild card. Let's go Mets.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.